Hey guys, welcome to the Journey Podcast, where we take agents and agency owners and business owners and kind of hear their journey, what it's like day one in the business, and then going through to where they're currently at. Get to hear their obstacles, how they overcame them, and how they became a better person. I am thrilled today to have Pinnacle, part owner of Pinnacle, $1 million producer, Gabe Ericson. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good, dude. Again, super excited to hear your story, dude. I've been with you pretty much the whole journey. I think you got a head start on me by probably like 6 months.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then, dude, I've built a massive business here at Pinnacle. Dude, just excited to hear your story today and kind of like what it was like Gabe Ericson day one and how you've grown and like what obstacles you've overcome over the last couple of years.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. I mean, it's been a journey, and it's funny, dude, because I feel like, I was talking to somebody yesterday who's also been in sales for like a decade plus, and I was like, he was talking about had to share one of his first sales experience 10 years ago. And I was like, that's so fitting because I feel like insurance hasn't been my only journey. And I think that's important for people to know when I think the same is definitely true of you.
100%. Yeah.
It's like, so if someone is brand new to sales, just starting in insurance, I was like, you can't compare your day one insurance to my day one, because I'd been getting my butt kicked for a long time before I got here, and then had a butt kicking here waiting for me.
Love it. Yeah. So like take it back to as far back as you want that you think will be impactful for the listeners of people that, again, just draw so much from people's journeys and their ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, dude, my first sales job, I was 19 turning 20, which is a fair amount of our, agents in that 20s range around there. And I was selling newspapers in Southside Chicago and Northwest Indiana.
Crazy.
And
half our viewers aren't even going to know what newspapers are at this point.
Dude, back then people also didn't want them. So like if people are like, oh, this was like the height of newspapers. No, that's why we were out there selling them door to door, because people were not getting them their own very, very much. And dude, it was never something I really saw myself doing. But funny enough, I remember going in for the interview. For whatever reason, I just saw some of the guys that were good at it. And I was like, I like this group. And I remember going in, talking to the owner who interviewed me, had a crew of probably at its height, I don't know, there, maybe 60, 70 guys. And so a good, decent sized organization. Like selling myself to him, like why I thought I would be good. Yeah. And he's like, all right, give it a shot. And dude was bad. was really bad. But I remember two things very vividly to this day, and this was 15 years ago. I remember how horrible it felt for someone to tell me no, give me that rejection. And I had even been used to going door. It wasn't like my first time being a stranger. I'd invited people to church, done outreach, youth ministries. Yeah. But this was different. And getting that rejection, getting the door slammed on you mid-sentence because you're trying to get through your script. Yeah. Memorizing the script, trying to say it well. I remember how horrible it felt to get that rejection. Then I remember how great it felt when someone said yes. Yeah. I just remember the first sale. I was like, man, I think I did a little jump or something. I was like, this feels awesome.
Little heel click,
Yeah, right, basically. And then I remember, this was probably several months later, my first time, one of the big things, you're trying to get 30, if you did 30 plus sales a week, that was good. We were probably making, I don't know, $800, which, for a college student working part-time was great money. And we're working, 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week.
Walking and talking to people.
Yeah, walking and talking to people. And I remember the first time I got 10 in a day, which if you got 10 in a day, you're like, boom. Yeah. And I remember just being on cloud nine, even getting back, and I had that first generation MacBook and recording myself in my pits, because I don't remember what I sounded like, saying it. I was like, this was really good. And I think I was hooked from that time. Now, the money I was making, I'm going to be very honest with you, was not super impressive. There were people that did way better at that opportunity than me, but it was my foot. And that's why I think is so important for people to know, like, I was not, like, for people that knew me and like, oh, Gabe did 80,000 plus month in insurance.
Yeah.
You know, comes in and like earlier this year I was selling, had like a 15K, a week, just selling with the guys. And it's like, that is not where I started, even close. And it was a journey to get there. And if anything, probably longer than most people's journey.
Yeah.
I went to like different opportunities. I remember the first time, believe it or not, selling, I don't know if I told you this or not, maybe. Did I tell you that I sold trash service?
I remember that because I remember before I hired you, that was part of like your history, and so like everyone was like, dude, he's really good at selling trash cans.
And like people were like, how do you sell a trash can? Right. People were probably like, what scam is Gabe running?
Right.
Out in the booties. And unincorporated areas where they had to buy their own trash service. That was the first time, I felt like I made real money.
Yeah.
Like, because they would give me like $50 for every service that I connected, and I was doing like 15 a day.
Wow.
And so I was having weeks where I was making $2-3 grand, and I think that opportunity and that experience is what, like, for lack of a better term, broke me.
Yeah.
Because it's like you couldn't tell me, and I was already. We recently did these personality tests.
Yeah.
And I think me and you got the same results, dude. We're individualists.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the title?
Yeah.
And so I've already been like, somewhat hard to tell something.
Right.
like I'm a difficult employee to have. Yep. And now I'm like, this is it. I can make $3,500 in a week. Like, I have that ability.
Yeah.
And I think when that was in my head, even though I didn't really have that complete skill set to do that and the discipline to do that consistently, like I still needed mindset work, the foundation was there to where I wasn't happy with anything else.
The proof of concept, right? It was like...
Exactly. And that's a huge moment.
Yeah.
It's a huge moment because until you experience it, there's always going to be that question, do I have the ability? Is someone else? If I see Mike do that, is Mike just special? And I just don't have it. And then you do it. And, I heard someone say the other day, if you can build a brick, you can build a city. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the feeling that I had. And so when I got to insurance, I think I had a lot of the same doubts that people have. Mm-hmm. But I remember my first week, I didn't make a sale until like the 7th day. Like I remember Sunday right before church. It's like, I have one appointment. I really need to sell this. I got to go to church. I'm going to church right after. And I sold it. But up until that point, I was watching friends sell. And I was like, can I do this?
Yeah.
And but I had that foundation. And it just made me keep pushing.
Love it. Something I kind of want to touch on that I've just noticed is you live a pretty simple life overall, right? So I think a lot of people can plateau really easy in this business because they don't really necessarily always have a big why, or they get content because their basic needs are met. They may have a big month or so. I think it's important because a lot of agents that I talk to, like, that's where they get. They have enough that they live in this mediocrity where you've obviously grown a massive business. Can you kind of talk about your why on why you didn't settle at just average in this business?
Yeah.
I think that's important for people to hear.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that, what you just said, I've self-examined this like a few times and just kind of what I know about the industry. People who seem to achieve on the highest level, they usually have one of two things. One is they have like a really expensive like lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there can be a pro to that. I remember actually my first 6 months in insurance was not in the broker space. It was with a captive agency. And they did something that, ethically, it's questionable to say the least. But what it did, what I saw, this is what they would do, Mike. They'd get you to come in and have a big week where you made more money than you used to. Like maybe as a 20-year-old, you made 10 grand in a month. And you're like, wow, that's a ton of money. I was working at McDonald's before, making $1,500 a month. And I just made 10 grand doing this. And then they try to get them to get a disgusting car payment or like get addicted to like a lifestyle of like going out to these really nice places or get a really nice home or apartment or condo. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to give them golden handcuffs to where they have to go out and work
and figure it
like
out.
that. And because like, dude, I have this $2,000 car payment and a $5,000 condo. Like I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And like I said, questionable, whether or not that's that I didn't like it, but and I didn't get, that was never an appeal for me. So like that's one of the reasons I left so quickly. I was like, this is not who I am.
Yeah.
Or it's people who have a big why, an impact that they want to have on the world, something purposeful that they want to do. Just had an agent on our morning call today who, first couple of months was like $5,000 each. Then the last couple of months he were like 30 and then like 40. And he starts going in talking about his mom and her medical needs and how she had over the last couple of months has stopped taking a stress medication because she doesn't feel like he needs it anymore. You just feel it pouring out of him that this is his why. And that is why he, and then on top of that, the manager says that this guy is working harder. He's the first one here, last one to leave. Because he has that big why. And I think seeing those two sides and seeing people be successful, I think if it's the nice things that motivate you, two things happen. One, that does not, and not always, but that does not always result in a very quality person and lifestyle as far as like the value. Like you attain those things and those things don't transform you like you thought they would.
Right.
And that leads to issues. Now in the pursuit of becoming the kind of person that could attain those things, you could get some very great disciplines and good things. But then that why, if that is what is pushing you, well, that becomes deeply fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like attaining and doing that why. And that is much more meaningful. And I think is one of those things why it's like, I'm God has certainly blessed me and I've gotten to a certain level of success. And I don't feel like I need, like, I'm very fulfilled by like fulfilling that why.
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
Yeah. Can you kind of, for the viewers, share like your why?
Yeah. So,
and even take it back to kind of like when you just started and like really that push to, to tell the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to school to be a minister. And when I was wrapping up that degree, I got my master's in practical theology. And I wrapped that up in West Africa with a group of missionaries. And as I'm wrapping up, and now this whole time I was getting my degree, which, I squeezed a 6-year degree into 8 years, really squeezed it. That majority of the time I was in a youth program in Southside Chicago, which I really loved. Yeah. I always loved doing that. It was so fulfilling for me. And then I went to West Africa, and I loved working in the like school ministry. So we'd go around and teach at schools and stuff like that, and that was a ton of fun. And then when we're getting ready to leave, one of the staff members at the church was like, hey, we did this thing. We actually skipped last year. We weren't able to do it last year, but a couple years ago, we went to like some local orphanages. I was in a city, Kumasi, with several million people, has 6 orphanages. And we went and we gave the kids like some presents and like spoke to them and I was like, yeah, dude, that sounds great. I would love to do that. And as we were doing that, I'd been at this point living in a third world country for several months, so I'd gotten used to the way that people live in that situation.
Yeah.
But even by those standards, I was like, man, this is not good. And it really bothered me to the point where when I was leaving, the guy that headed up that ministry, we went out to dinner and he kind of like interviewed me and he's like, if you decide you want to come back like long term, what do you see yourself doing? Kind of went back and forth. And then, as we were kind of wrapping up, I was like, have you ever considered an orphanage? And he's like, I mean, yes and no. He's like, you're talking to somebody who lives sacrificially. He, raised money from churches, living off like 15 grand a year in a third world country, trying to give his family, a nice standard of living in that environment. And he's like, dude, I mean, that would be very expensive. He's like, I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, and that's kind of like stayed on my heart for several years. And then a few years later, dude, literally, I mean, it correlated. It had to be a divine thing, because right before I got into insurance, I was just like, I just had this feeling. I'm like, this is the year. And I wasn't on any kind of timeline before that. Like in my mind, I was like, when I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know. Because also, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I was like, how do you raise that kind of money? It was like, a big number. And then, so I just felt that. I called him. I was like, how much would it be? And he's like, we got some numbers together. It'd be like 50 grand to get that up off the ground and going. And I was just like, we're going to do it this year. And right around that time, I got an insurance. And my second week, I wrote 7 grand in premium. And I was like, dude, I just started. Like, I'm going to get better at this. We can do this. And so we started that first one. And then I didn't get to see it until the next year. So that was 2020. The end of 21, I went to see it. And I was so impacted. It was kind of like some of that very similar feeling to how I had felt like that first time I had sold 10 newspapers in a day.
Yeah.
It's like that breakthrough of belief of what is possible. And that first time I, made 3 grand in a week. It was like very similar to that feeling. And I stood on this property. I was a big part of this happening. And, it's to see the kids and hear their stories. This kid's, both his parents are passed away. This kid, his mom is disabled and can't take care of him. And he was living on the street before he lived here. And, this kid was known, we don't even know where he came from. He was known as a thief in his community. And people said it'd be no good. Now he's just like the star of this. And Ted Spear, the guy who's running, is like, these kids are the best kids in our church. Like, they're incredible. And I just remember I was just overwhelmed by, like, the thought of what I could do in my life. And like, how many of these can I do like before I pass away? And I was like, 100 seems crazy enough to be like enough to really have to change to get it, but also something that was possible. And so, yeah, dude, this year we're starting 2 more,
for a total of how many now?
7. And so we're going to start one in the process of one in Colombia and then one in Thailand that's going to start very soon. And, I have one in Pakistan, Nigeria, there in Ghana, Guadalajara, and Liberia.
Love it.
And, yeah, dude, it's been awesome. And I think what has continued to make that so fulfilling is seeing how many other people, yourself and our managers, them also be empowered by that vision and want to see that change. Because that's also something, dude, like a lot of people don't believe this when I'm saying it. I think you know me well enough to know this. I truly am an introvert.
Yeah.
Like, I will go home and not talk to anybody and be very happy.
Yeah.
And so my belief on how I would influence people, but to see so many people moved and influenced has given me like another level of purpose and why to like keep getting this bigger.
Love it. How many of the one in Ghana, how many children are at that one?
So when we very first started, it was 30.
Okay.
And then what was it, beginning of last year? So it was a big project. We had like 80.
Wow.
And we had the home we had bought fit comfortably, like, I'm nervous to say, like 55 and 80 there.
Yeah.
And, they made it work because these kids had a place. And they're like, we needed a new project. So we just completing this year a building project where a home that will fit 250.
Wow.
And that was much more expensive than the first one.
Yeah.
But so close to 100 now, just in that one.
How quick do you think that 250 will take to fill up?
The truth is, and I was talking to Ted about this, we don't advertise.
Yeah, I gotcha.
that orphanage at all. And we have 100 kids there.
Wow.
Like it's one of those things like, growing, I thought I knew what poverty was growing up in, I grew up in assisted living housing and what people would call the projects.
Yeah.
But here there's so many support systems that like I knew a lot of people who had one parent who didn't work and was living off government assistance or lived with their grandparents.
The food banks they
Yeah,
have. Yeah,
and like, had food stamp. Like, was it, was it something to be proud of? No, not real. No, not really. Was it super nice compared to what other people had? No, not really. But you had food, you had clothing. I had a clean bed and clean water and heat and air conditioning even and, food every day.
Yeah.
You live to a third world country where the average person, like a good functioning family, a mom, dad, healthy, like they're working for what their family's going to eat that day.
Yeah.
And there's the only thought of the future is to raise the kids up right to where when I'm not able to work anymore, that they're able to work and keep taking care of us.
Yeah.
Like it's just, the conversations that we have in the States about generational wealth and all this stuff and driving, $500,000 car, like that's not present.
Yeah.
And so when like a lot of the situations, kids that are there, it's stuff where it's like, they're being the family wants to take care of them, but can't.
Yeah.
And so puts them up in the school where they can live there year round.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's coincidence at all, like how God has blessed Pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, a lot of it is like, you can't outgive God. Right. So, and I know you give so much of your time and your money and everything that God's blessed you with, right? Like to this cause.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of where the people of a prophet comes from, right? It's not, you have opportunity to do whatever you want with that money, right? But you choose to use it to help others, and I think that's very dude, that's a huge cause. And I know that all of Pinnacle is rallied around that and the vision of being able to help others, something bigger than themselves, which I think is super, super important for those agents that maybe don't have a big why.
Yeah.
Maybe they grew up with money, or maybe how can you, I think nothing pushes you more than when you have a cause bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And
dude.
I think that's.
No, what you just said means a lot to me, dude. And you know what it reminds me of? When I was in that first opportunity, people would ask me what it was like, and I would tell them it was a very Wolf of Wall Street vibe.
Yeah.
It's like, they even added, it's so funny because I talked to someone who knew it and they were like, have a day. We're like, oh, everyone dresses up in suits and black. And, you'd go out and there'd be super nice cars. And what was getting promoted, and there was just like we have, it's a lot of younger people, coming into it, a lot of young, maybe not also all young, but young entrepreneurs, young families. And you would see people get wrapped up in an ideology that I knew wasn't good.
Yeah.
It's like, man, because I was in that same age bracket, I was easily influenced. And I think my background in ministry and being used to speaking to youth and the inner city youth programs, I had a stronger foundation and core of principles. But a lot of people don't. They're seeking.
Yeah.
They're looking. And the idea that they would walk in and be influenced in that way, I think I really hated it. But I think I love, and I thank God for it. I would think, and not to say, because it's made up of people and people aren't perfect, but I think I would say when people walk into Pinnacle and they see the why and the push, they would be very positively influenced by it. Would be a good what they want to do in the world. I think people would objectively look and be like, that's good.
Yeah. It definitely is. I mean, when people walk in here, they know something's different about the business, right? They can't exactly put their finger on what's different about Pinnacle, but once they're in it for a couple weeks, it doesn't take them very long to figure out, okay, there's something different about this business, right? It's not about glitz and glamour, even though, again, you were able to achieve, it's cool to see Holly get her first home.
Yeah.
Right. I was able to buy my first home because of this business. What it can actually do. It's a life-changing business, but it's, a lot of the people that are here, they have a cause bigger than themselves. Right. And I think that's just really cool because, again, a lot of, I think what the leadership does, right, the rest of everyone else is going to follow, so I'm appreciative to be in this business with you and excited to see where this thing goes, man.
Same, dude. Same.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Any parting shots for someone who's kind of along in their journey, You've been through all the ups and downs, right? Like that's a whole nother, I think, podcast. But dude, can you kind of share something that maybe would help an agent? Maybe he's in a lull right now or that's struggling, and how you've kind of always approached those.
On our morning call this week, we had two really great interviews with agents kind of sharing their journey. One was Brandon, who, has been in sales now for, I don't know, like 12 or 13 years. And one, Rob, who has just been in for 4. And I think this is what I want to impact, what I saw in their stories and what I feel in mine. Everybody has that time. And I think this is so funny, Mike. We've talked about this before. Everyone thinks their experience is unique, 100%. Especially when they're struggling.
Yeah.
We're all tempted to think I'm the only one.
Is everyone this bad?
This. Yeah, it's like I'm the only one going through this.
Yeah.
And everyone else, that did good at this is better. And sometimes, and this is just a really poison mindset, it's like, other people failed. What makes me any different? And they look at that failure and they familiarize themselves with that rather than saying, hey, Mike won. What makes us different? If he can win, why not me? And I think, but to get there, Brandon shared, to steal these guys' stories a little bit, or just to share them. Brandon shared he'd gone 18-0, 18 presentations, no sales. Left after a particularly tough one where he thought he was going to get it, and the guy shot him down right at the end in a very frankly rude manner.
Yeah.
And then went home and prayed and was like, I am not going to give up, but I appreciate some help, just like that prayer. Yeah. And he said, it's so funny because he said, I didn't even want to say I'm not going to give up. He's like, I didn't want to say that. He's like, I wanted to say I'm going to give up and this is just not for me. Yeah. That was the temptation. And then that very next day, he had that breakthrough. Rob shared this morning, his first month, very, mediocre, did not make money, lost money. Second month, worse. And then, gets his friend who's doing well in the business is like, dude, come to this lock-in and spend $400. And he's like, dude, it's $400 in the plane ticket. And then it was with our summit. He's like, oh, it's $100 for the summit. And I'm gonna buy food when I'm there. And like, this is someone who's working security, making a couple grand a month. It's a lot of money. And he's like, I'm not doing good. And he's like, what is this really gonna do for me anyway? I'm still me. Yeah. When I go there, it's like, is it really gonna help? And then just made that decision to take that extra step. And then dude had a breakout week, wrote 11K, saw other people. And it's like, dude, I just saw other people also getting a tough time from people, but it wasn't affecting them as much. And he's like, I'm thinking about it. He's like, I'm letting this beat me down and I'm missing the easy ones, and now has done 30 and 40K. And then myself, struggling through rejection, really feeling it when it hurts, and then getting to that breakthrough and that not understanding. I don't think people understand, Mike, what those breakthrough moments, I don't think people understand how much they can change.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how much I could change. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But if you don't persevere to those breakthrough moments and experience them, you'll also never experience the change.
Yeah.
People want to run away from the pain, and what they don't realize is they're running away from the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And so if I could leave something with anyone watching this is, man, believe in yourself enough to so you can hit that breakthrough and grow.
Love it.
Because if you don't push yourself, I think something was great about both those stories I love so much. Brandon had that strong feeling of, I want to give up so bad, but I'm not going to quit, and resisting that. Rob, this is not going to change, and it's a sacrifice to get there. I'm not going to change anyway. And then that, I take a bet on myself.
Yeah.
And then they experience that. It makes me sad to think other people at that juncture, and then they don't make that decision to move forward.
Yeah.
And I make that decision, move forward.
Love it, dude. I think a lot of it is just taking that one more step.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I had to do cross country I'd always do it in shape for basketball. And I remember this one, like, I was running, it was 3.5 miles, and I just felt like quitting. Like, I was like, dude, I hate this. This is miserable. But let me just take one more step. Let me just take one more step. And that's always helped me. Like, as I finished, it was just, I probably finished out of 20 people, I was probably like 15th. But I just remember, like, being proud of myself that I finished. Right. And I think that's so important for new agents is like, dude, just take one more step. Just keep showing up. Keep trying to get better. Keep, like, I think that, like, failure is part of our business.
Yeah.
Right. Quitting, like, that's obviously giving up on yourself. Right. So I think, but if you're not learning from your failures, I think that's where a lot of agents go wrong. So,
of course. And I mean, you learn from your failures, and I think you're transformed by your breakthrough moments. And I mean, but if you don't push to get there, you're never going to experience it.
Yeah. Dude, this was so good. I think a lot of people take a ton of value from this. So appreciate you. Love you.
Love you too, man. Appreciate you. And let's keep doing it.
Let's get it. Thanks, guys.